Welcome to episode number 5 of Bard's Backlog. I am your host, Josh Gallegos, and joining me, as always this week, the casual gamer, Jared Benson.
Hello, everyone.
How are you doing, my good friend? We were talking a little bit briefly, just updating each other on COVID, but what is life right now?
It's a little more open-ended than I expected, but life is hectic right now. I still work. I'm considered an essential employee. I'm a home health aide. I work with old people, and so
right. We talked about that last time.
Yep. The scariest version of my current life is that I get COVID-19. Because in the facility that I'm working in currently, one of the residents has tested positive. Now they're in a totally different wing of the facility, but it is a distinct possibility because we all use the same entrance to check in and out, and
right.
Very, very possible, to be honest with you. So we'll see what happens, and I got to be extra careful, wash the hands extra much, and keep the distance, and absolutely be safe.
I would just, as soon as you, get to the car, and then when you get home, just, totally strip completely and streak to your house and jump right into the shower. That's what I would do.
No, and then don't re-wear the same clothes. You just don't know, and be doing laundry as much as you can. Absolutely. No, I'm with you.
No, I'm actually starting a job, little life update for the video game Bard, at Target. So one of the few places that's actually open and offering. I actually looked into home health aid because of what you were doing, and because it was essential work. I got a little bit of feedback from the 10 places that I applied to, but Target ended up moving a little quicker, so going in that direction. But I'm kind of worried similarly, just the fact that I'm going to be around so many, way more people.
Right.
I have very much lived the quarantine life. I have been very cut off and been very careful about every time I go out. I have my own mask and everything, so it's going to be a bit of a shift. And I know we're getting towards the end of everything, but definitely going to be a shift for me just being around people, and I'm kind of trying to scheme out exactly how I'm going to handle that. And obviously the streaking was option number 1 for me. Not that I'm going to. No, that'd be terrible, actually. It's a little too cold here.
It's a little too cold still, yeah.
It really is. But in any case, this is Bard's Backlog, the ever-growing catalog of video games inducted into our Hall of Games. Hall of Games, of course, made up of a variety of titles. We kind of tackle them a bit randomly, so it's not like there's any rhythm or rhyme to what exactly we're doing next. But we, Jared and I, are the gatekeepers and, like I like to say, subsequent executioners of any video game candidate, including today's. And Bard's Backlog, the goal is really just to create a catalog of high-quality games for people to check out, and then also to kind of talk through what makes them special and why we love them. Last time we went through Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch, which I can actually say now because I took time and practiced. And that was a really good episode. I'd recommend that. A little bit more of a subtle suggestion because we didn't get to finish the game exactly. But that was our last one. And jumping into this week, we've got a really exciting title on hand, so we'll be getting into that. But I have down here, of course, the COVID update. I'm just ready personally we were talking a little bit about this, but I'm ready to just burst back out there onto the scene and just be past this whole pandemic. It's really interesting. I find it incredibly interesting that we are actually living through real life pandemic, and that we'll be able to just reminisce about this. But at the same time, I'm just wondering if humanity is ever going to be able to get back to normal,
Yep.
It just feels like we're not going to at this point. I don't know.
Those old action movies where they would have DEFCON 1 all the way up to DEFCON 5, and I think even One Punch Man has that DEFCON God tier threat or something like that. And I would consider us at DEFCON 1. We really haven't done too much more than isolate and sanitize.
Okay.
And to me, global pandemic that's movie level quality is going to be wiping out way more people.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
But I do feel like it is definitive. It's DEF CON 1. It is not a normal situation. It's not nothing to worry about. And it has been interesting to try to adjust for sure.
What was it? I think it's called The Strain or something, where it has a bunch of... There's like 15 different movie stars in it, and they're all like getting killed by the like what starts out as like something like the common cold. Mm-hmm. And it spreads across. Maybe it's actually called pandemic. I don't know. But... yeah, no, I guess you're right. It could get a lot worse. I never really thought about it in that light. Thanks for that.
Well, I'm certainly not trying to depress you, but on your to go, I can run outside, but I mean, lifting weights, getting into the gym, getting that routine in,
right?
So for sure.
Really, but that's the thing. Like, how many people are going to want to? Like, everyone's so much more aware of germs now. Like, are people even gonna be like as active and as gym heavy as they used to be? I don't know if I'm going to be.
Yeah, maybe that's a good point. I think if everyone is aware of it, I think that my gym was pretty good about wiping equipment down. I rarely saw anyone leave an equipment. I don't think I've ever seen anyone leave equipment without wiping it down. Everyone's really
sure.
courteous about that and everything. I think now people will wipe it down before they get on and then also after they get off instead of just maybe after they get off or anything. But yeah, so it'll be. But the gym is my happy place. That's why I say that. I like the environment and everything. So,
well, with this episode 5, hopefully this isn't our last episode before one of us gets COVID. But we'll see. Of course, you can submit questions to Jared and I via Twitter specifically for our default segment or for the game that we'll be covering. I'm going to try and do a little bit better with announcing that ahead of time. We've kind of been making things up as we go along, like I said. But today I'll be able to announce what game we're covering next, and you guys can submit questions to us, like I said, via Twitter. So I'm at Video Game Bard, and then Jared is at Jared T-Ben, mm-hmm. A and then an E in that name. So not the other way around, because you can spell that all sorts of different ways.
Jared, like the jewelry store.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
There you go. What's their slogan? I was just about to say it, and then it totally lost.
I think it's just a tune. It's gotta be Jared.
There you go. So with that in mind, let's jump into our first segment, the Games We Playin. Jared, you have here a little game called Rocket League.
Yep.
How has that been?
Well, the bottom line is that I suck. But Rocket League is, in short, just a timeless competitive game with eye-popping visuals and a stomach-turning level of control. It's a fantastic party game. Invite your friends over, play casually, have a couple of drinks. It is a wild time. It's one of those... It just feels more accessible because it's on all platforms. It's not like you have to have a certain type of friend to bring them over and play Mario Party, which is a game we've talked about before. But Rocket League, everyone's so familiar with. It's very mainstream. It's on all platforms. Everyone's familiar with it. So it's a really great party game, but it is difficult to be good at.
It's basically like acrobat car soccer.
Oh, yeah.
Like... You're just flying through the air. And I personally have gotten into it in the past. I haven't played it for probably a couple of years now, but it can get really, I think, addicting once you get semi-good at it. Like, obviously, if you suck at it, I don't know how much fun it is for the casuals, but if you can kind of start to hone in on just the finesse of it, because there's definitely a finesse to it, I don't know, it can be a ton of fun. And they have a lot of variety now, right? They have a lot of different game modes and stuff that you can play.
I didn't even get the full package. I just went right to the classic game mode, which is a quick play match between 6 people or so, and it's a wild ride every time, even on the simplest level. So
cool. Yeah, Rocket League, definitely a good game to suggest. The game before that was called, I think, Super Powered Acrobatic Hypercar or something like that. It had 6 6 words in the title. It was really long. So Rocket League's a little
dude, you want to come over and play some SPCHTY? Said super powered.
Yeah. Cool. Definitely a good game. I've been playing Control. Has been my big game I've been tackling over the last couple weeks since our last episode. And I had actually started it but I didn't really want to jump into it right away when we were talking about Ni no Kuni. But Control is a hyper action game that came out last year. It won a ton of Game of the Year awards, so it's at that caliber.
We actually mentioned it in our first episode, I think, when we were talking about Game of the Year. I mean, that might not have been Bard's Backlog, but it definitely came up in our conversation.
Yeah, back when it was my favorite video game. No, we definitely did tackle it. Do you know anything about the game, Jared?
No, I just know that the format's unique. You gain powers as you go along, and you're fighting through one building. That's really all I know about it. Yeah.
Actually, that kind of sums it up. It's an interesting game. I would say, like, I don't want to curse, but I call it the video game version of a mind F-bomb, because it is bizarre, like truly bizarre in the way that its story is told, and in the way that the abilities and everything play out. So you kind of end up becoming a superhero throughout the game, but it's all cerebral. Like, everything that's happening is very much like they talk a lot about the astral plane, and there's a lot of different beings that kind of come through that, and the world itself is constantly shifting, or like the world. When I say the world, you're playing as a lady named Jessie as she fights something that she calls the Hiss through, like you said, one building, the Federal Bureau of Control. So it's got a lot of like bureaucratic elements. You know, you've got like the shady government doing a lot of things and experimenting and trying to crack through to the fourth dimension and stuff like that. And like, you're seeing the effects of that on the world itself. I have it written down here, lots of tele gameplay. Like, there's a lot of telepathy and telekinetic powers and televisions and stuff like that.
Does it remind you of Dishonored at all?
You know, I've not personally played Dishonored.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right. Okay.
Yeah. Is Dishonored kind of cerebral in that way? Just like a lot of like heady concepts?
Well, it's part like Dishonored is more of a, I would say, like a grungy kind of medieval Assassin's Creed Control mashup. Like, but there is some tele gameplay. That's what really the big reason.
Gotcha. Probably then. That's really the biggest draw and the hook as far as the gameplay is concerned, is the abilities that you can unlock. After a while, you can even gain the ability to fly through the air, and then you've got like telekinesis, so you can grab things and pull them towards you. And the Hiss itself is like this weird kind of other dimensional being that inhabits people, and if they don't have what they call HRA strapped to their chest, they can be overtaken by this being. And a lot of those are the enemies that you're fighting constantly throughout the building. And there's just a lot of interesting little concepts like that being thrown around left and right. I just played a really amazing section called the Ashtray Maze, and you're just like, it totally wraps up perfectly like all the best elements of this game. And I really don't want to spoil it, but I would look up, if you guys are even curious about the game at all, look up the Ashtray Maze, and that'll definitely sell you on Control. But it's a weird game. It's a really weird, just like cerebral game, and I've been loving it and really looking forward to finishing it. I'm probably like 75% of the way through. All the quarantining that's been happening has really allowed me to tackle quite a few games, but this one has really stood out from the pack this year. So definitely well worth all of the nominations that it got, and I can understand why so many people clicked with it, but at the same time, it's weird.
Just be aware,
Yeah, just be aware. It's a weird game, but I like it. My wife has been watching a lot and kind of like picking up on some of the story elements, and she thinks it's really weird too, but it's riveting enough that she's been interested, so that should say something. Jared, you also have here, you're playing a game called 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross.
Yeah.
What the heck?
So if you're familiar with Netflix and you've wandered into the anime section, even if you've never watched any of it, 7 Deadly Sins is one that they push because it's a Netflix original. It's fantastic. It got great reviews. It's a chaotic medieval mess of a show, but it's fantastic. And then this is their spin-off game, which actually pulls directly from the anime as far as how it opens, the opening scenes, and everything like that. But this has been my most recent foray into turn-based mobile strategy games. You know, you attack, the enemy attacks, you attack, the enemy attacks, that kind of thing. And it's okay. You know, maybe I'm still getting used to it, but like, I'm so sick of games that just have this need, because it's so complex, they have this need for really unenjoyable, heavy-handed tutorials. It just bogs me down, and it kills all of the enthusiasm I have going into a game. So I'm still getting used to it, but I prefer games that kind of slowly drop you into the complexity of what you can do, open the world slowly.
Sure.
I think a lot of the best games build that way intentionally, and they try to simplify it. And you know, I think that makes the game more accessible. So this game is just an explosion. And most games are like that. Civilization games, you can like, you know, they try to connect you to the whole world, and you can also build cities and labs, and Clash of Clans is a little bit like that, although it's better formatted. But it's a similar game to that. It's just a little overwhelming. So it's okay. I'm kind of enjoying it, but it's all right.
Is it worth it if you're interested in the series? Like, would you say that it's at a quality enough?
No, I would just say you might want to check it out if you like turn-based strategy games, but if you the quality is okay as far as like what they're showing you, but you definitely don't need it to enjoy the anime. Okay. So, no. Gotcha.
All right. Well, I probably, most of your like suggestions, I end up being like, ooh, really interested right after. But this has been one of the ones I'm kind of like, probably not.
You know, no, and I think that's fair. If you know what you like, you can check it out. But it's all right. It's whatever. One of the things that I like about our show, the way you have this formatted, is that we kind of have like the game of the episode, and then a bunch of other games that we can either discard or have like an honorable mention to. You know, the Games We Playin segment. I really like that. Speaking of which, before we get to our main game, you have here Captain Toad. I'm intrigued. What is this?
So Captain Toad Treasure Tracker is a quaint, cute twist on the Mario style platformer. You play as Captain Toad and then also Toadette partway through the game, and it's really a unique and fantastic little game. It came out for the Wii U, which is when I first encountered it, but it's on the Switch, and I just couldn't help myself but pick it up again, and they've added a lot to it as far as content is concerned, so it was well worth the purchase. But the game itself is based off of a Japanese concept of like model gardens, like little gardens that they have that they can store in their own home. I can't remember what the actual term is, but it's like a very cultural thing that they like to do, where they have these square setups that this game really just borrows from, where they're little multi-layered square levels that rely on perspective. So Captain Toad gets dropped in on the level, and you can twist the level around to kind of see different parts of it. And it really is clever in the way that the levels are laid out, and they're all incredibly cutesy and interesting. The way that they're designed, and they're little challenges. Like, they're not big challenges or anything that's incredibly difficult to tackle. And in fact, most of the levels pass by within, I probably get through them within 3 minutes. It's not like even an incredibly long thing. Even in like a Mario game, when you're traversing a regular like 2D Mario platformer level, those are even a bit longer than these little square levels are. But it's fun. Like, it's really just quaint and cute and enjoyable. The cleverness of the game, and I would say it's incredibly clever, comes in the way that it's traversed. So each of these levels, Captain Toad, the whole conceit is that, unlike Mario, he can't jump. So you're dropped into a level, and you're just trying to make your way through, track down treasure in it. I try to collect all the different, there's like gems in each level. I try to collect those, but a lot of them are themed after different things. Like a lot of them are Mario-esque themed, so like you can get like a ghost mansion level, and then there are like even minecart levels here and there, but they're great. Each and every single one is a new little experience, I would say. As you click into the level itself, and it pops up, and maybe it's one, like there was a specific one centered around these totems that pop up throughout the level, and as you walk through and hit different buttons, the level changes and shifts and the way that your perspective works, you have to be constantly paying attention as it shifts to what exactly is changing so that you can take advantage of that. And it really just it's a great little game for people that maybe would be interested in that. And actually, I would suggest this to just about anyone if they're into platformers at all. It's Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, very interesting game. So that's that.
After I've played Mario Odyssey with all the really great, wonderfully designed, 2D levels that they incorporate into the game, this sounds like something I'd want to jump into, honestly. And I'm not really a big platformer.
No, even if you're slightly interested in that, I'd say wonderfully designed levels, this is a game for that. And it's not difficult. Like, it's not going to make you have to work to jump from platform to platform because you can't even jump. So it's a little bit more puzzly in that you're just kind of walking through the level, and you're using the perspective a lot. Like, you have complete control over the rotation of the level itself from the get-go as soon as you drop in on it. So it's a little square, and then you can kind of just rotate around and see everything that's going on. And really, even like trying to watch it, like, I was trying to get my wife to watch this game and just be like, look at this cool little game that I have. It's not the same as when you're playing it. It just feels good. And I would highly suggest it to anyone who's even mildly interested in a Mario game. This one, I would say, is even not better per se, but it's just got its own thing going and really works well for what it is. And I love the concept, the way that it's based on these little model Japanese gardens. And that really just drives the whole thing through the entire time. Someone had a good idea. Like, you can tell, like, someone had like this little like brilliant spark of an idea, and they took that and ran with it and made a whole game out of it, and it's awesome.
There you go.
Highly recommended. Highly recommended. A little bit more than Control, I would say, just because it's a little more universal of a appeal. But with that said, that is the games we're playing this week. You guys can hit us up on Twitter if you're interested in telling us what you've been playing. Of course, quarantine, everyone's been playing all sorts of different things. I have a friend who's been diving deep into Horizon Zero Dawn, another great game I would love to replay. But let us know what you guys are playing.
And give us recommendations to play. Like, I'll go out and spend a couple bucks on really any mobile game or Switch game. I don't mind. That's more my domain recently, just because I don't have an Xbox or PlayStation 4, unfortunately, yet. Working on it, but not yet. And Josh can probably handle anything else you want to recommend. But definitely recommend to us games. We would love that.
Yeah, and I've been having a lot of people give me feedback outside of the podcast, and that's fine. If nobody wants to have something read on the podcast itself, of course, you guys can still reach out to us regardless. But with that in mind, let's go ahead and jump into our default segment for this week. The world right now cannot get enough of the Nintendo Switch. Speaking of, this is a little story that Jared actually pointed out to me that I want to read here, but this is from CNN. Nintendo pauses Nintendo Switch shipments to Japan amid a global shortage. So just a perfect storm here for Nintendo thanks to the crisis. And I'll read this and then we can talk about it a little bit, Jared. But it says, Nintendo has paused shipments of the Nintendo Switch and Switch Lite from its production facilities in China and Vietnam to Japan amid global shortages of the popular video game consoles. The company confirmed to CNN Business that there will be no new shipments of the Nintendo Switch and the Switch Lite this week to Japan apart from pre-orders. It tweeted in Japanese on Tuesday that it would update customers next week on the shipping schedule. Demand for Nintendo Switch soared thanks to Animal Crossing New Horizons and the surge in home gaming during COVID-19, Lisa Hansen, president of Nico Partners, a research firm that focuses on the gaming industry in Asia, told CNN Business. She noted that the sales of the Switch in Japan surged 240% in March compared to a year ago. Nintendo could be mitigating in the short global supply issue by limiting shipments to Japan when demand there may be lower in April after big sales in March, Hansen added. On February 6th, Nintendo announced it was dealing with production delays in China due to the ongoing pandemic. Even though Nintendo began to move part of its manufacturing to Vietnam in 2019, it still relies on China for supply. The company declined to say how much the supply chain has recovered since then. Nintendo said in a statement, Nintendo Switch hardware is selling out at various retail locations in the US, but more systems are on the way. We apologize for the inconvenience. And the article just closes out really fast, just noting the fact that people are really just looking for Nintendo Switches right now. The price is doubled in some places. On eBay, you can be selling it for like $500 right now. The Walmart, or not the Walmart, on Walmart's website, the Animal Crossing edition of the Switch, which is the limited edition that just came out earlier this year, is marked up to $800,
which is insane.
It's crazy.
But then again, I'd pay $1,000 for a phone, so
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. So, man, what do you think about this story, Jared?
It's a good time to be alive if you have Nintendo stock,
Hey.
Actually, I don't even know if they're a public company. They might be. They're probably public, right? But
I think so. Yeah, they are.
But no, it is a perfect storm. In addition to COVID, shortening the supply of the video game console, you have a bunch of people staying indoors and wanting to play video games. Now's the time. They have more free time. Let's order a Switch. Right. Dude, I follow people on Twitter, middle-aged moms who are playing Animal Crossing. I don't know what it is, but this game has taken off, and the hype leading up to that point, I really, I'd heard about it. I was excited about it. We mentioned it, but it really is the perfect storm. The release of the Switch coupled with Breath of the Wild, and then big games released over time. This is the next biggest game that they've released on the Switch, and it has definitely been a hype creator. It's been awesome. So I'm excited about it.
And what a game, for this specific crisis to go.
For sure.
This, escapist island game. Animal Crossing could not have so perfectly landed. And yet, here we are. And it's really become, a second life for people. Karina, actually, my wife, got the Switch that is now could be sold at $800. I've been thinking a lot about that. But she has that Animal Crossing version, and she loves it so much, and she's been putting all kinds of time into her island, and it's just the perfect juxtaposition to the pandemic. It's just crazy. And Nintendo, of course, and it makes sense that they're seeing a surge. Think about if you have kids at home,
right?
What are you going to do to keep them occupied?
Right.
Of course, you could do a quick run to Target, grab one of these things, and give it to them. And so, of course, everyone's kind of just running on the stores already. And this is another thing that it's a nice, perfect console for just being at home. The hybrid version of it, where you can put it into the dock, but then also use it and even just lay in bed and play, is just so perfect for this time that we're in. So good on them, and hopefully there'll be a little bit more. My wife and I were looking for a console for her sister because she's been seeing all the Animal Crossing stuff and has been livid that she doesn't have her own console. So we've been on the lookout, just trying to keep an eye out for them, and it has been insane how rare they are at this point in time. And the Switch is 3.5 years old now?
Yeah.
This is not a new console, and yet they're seeing shortages around the world in the midst of a global pandemic because of how great of a console it is. There's not really much else to say about it other than that, but we were able to actually find one yesterday, and we spent the whole day kind of putting it, going out, getting it, and then my wife was sitting online and it popped up in store at Target as she was checking it out, and they had just got a shipment in. As we pulled up into the store, we could see the truck in the back, with them bringing in all the supplies and everything. So she had literally jumped on it as it happened, and the guy at the front was oh yeah, I haven't seen these in forever, and so he was all surprised as well that we got one.
There you go.
And then we spent the day packing it and sending it to her sister. So pretty cool. but the world just can't get enough of that Nintendo Switch right now. Very interesting story. So that's our default segment for this week. If you are looking for a Switch, good luck. Because now is definitely not the time.
If you want to switch, you might reach out to me on Twitter. I might be able to find one at a store nearby, and we could figure that out. If that's something you're interested in, we could work that out probably.
There you go.
Because I've seen some in the stores. They're not as hot of an item here.
Okay. Jared offering his services. I guess maybe it's just like, obviously it's a regional thing. But,
yes, definitely a regional thing, yeah.
Yeah. Poor Japan. They're getting theirs completely cut off outside of pre-orders. But with that in mind, let's go ahead and put that segment aside and jump into the pick of the week. And this week, we are going to be talking about the fabulous Super Mario Odyssey. Released October 2017 on the Nintendo Switch, Super Mario Odyssey is the most recent installment in the longest-running 3D Mario series, and the spiritual successor to Super Mario 64. And my, oh my, what a game it is.
Yeah,
Jared,
absolutely.
First impressions, what was like as you got into the game? How did you feel about Mario Odyssey?
You know, I was like, okay, impress me. That's really what was my expectation going in, because I remember the emotional gut punch that was Super Mario Galaxy, and the whole like top, that game powered the sale of the Wii, just like Animal Crossing is now powering the sale of the Switch, because of its world-bending gravity, the way that you could run around on small planets, and it really did change. Right. You're always being pulled towards the center of the planet, and you had to jump around and accommodate things like that. But this game has more of a flat dynamic. You show up at a world that has limited boundaries, small kingdom worlds, and you have to, the way the gameplay is styled, you take a cap and you throw it at something, and Josh will explain the capture dynamic a little bit more later, but you throw a cap and that's how you navigate around the world, but the entire game feels like a speed run. And in a sense, it is. I finished the game probably with less than 10 hours of total gameplay. Now, that's because I was taking my time a little bit, too. If you're speed running through this thing and like going as fast as you can, getting the bare minimum so you can move on to the next level, you could probably finish this game in 6 hours. I don't know if you'd agree with that, Josh. Maybe I'm overestimating, but...
No, I mean, that's definitely pretty close. It's a fast-paced game.
It is very
for sure.
fast-paced, but it's also very, very accessible. I would recommend... I was talking to Josh about, this before the podcast. It's very accessible. If you want to get into the Mario world, you've never done it before, this game you will love. No matter what genre of games you like playing, this game is quick. Everything feels like a speed run, and it's super addicting.
Yeah, I was. It's interesting comparing it to Mario Galaxy. I was thinking about this the other day. The difference is obvious, and I like that you say emotional, because that's a big thing I think Galaxy has over Odyssey. It's just this, it's grandiose, like fills you with a sense of awe that Odyssey really doesn't have. Odyssey is a lot more of a frenetic, just like joyride trip of just like flying through the idea of Mario. And Galaxy was a little bit more of a epic, I would say, just
yes.
like really trying to fill you with a sense of awe. I remember when I first got Galaxy, it was actually at a time similar thing to right now, where there was a shortage of Switches. There was a shortage of Wiis, and it was because it was new, and Mario Galaxy was out, like you said. And I finally like found a used Wii, was able to get that at home, and at the same time was able to pick up a copy of Mario Galaxy, and I spent the evening just in this sense of wonder, as they took this concept of galaxies, this concept of planets, and really just like fleshed it out on this incredibly deep level across multiple different galaxies and everything, and the way that I brought this up to Jared a little bit ago, but the way that the music really just like ties into it, really puts it on just this very high pinnacle for me.
Absolutely. I really dig the tone of Odyssey, and a lot of that has to do with the music. Instead of the deep emotional impact that came with Mario Galaxy, this game, Odyssey says, "Welcome to Odyssey. Just how good are you at Mario?" And it's more of a it is different from that epic in quite a literal sense. The scale is much smaller, whereas Mario Galaxy seemed to take its time in like demonstrating, here there are universes, galaxies away that you need to go save. The scale was way bigger, and you're starting from this floating space station as your home base, whereas Mario Odyssey is just the planet. You're literally just on planet Earth, and then you go to the moon. But the scale is definitively smaller. But I also think that they don't take themselves as seriously. Like you said, the music is so interesting to Odyssey. I think they even come up with like a full-length original song, for Metro.
There's two, actually.
Yeah.
One partway through, and I really want to talk about that when we get to it a little later. But and then another at the very end that was surprising. And they take this idea of they really just want to put you on a frenetic, like fast-paced vacation is really what it is.
Yes.
And just take you from location to location and show you as many cool things as they possibly can in as short amount of time as they possibly can. And because of that, like you said, it's just fast. It's just a fast game.
What I will say is, it is super fast, but I will say it's a less cohesive package than Mario Sunshine and Mario Galaxy. And the reason why it seems that way, and it is that way in my opinion, is because they took like all of their best ideas and crammed it into this one game. All of their best like mechanical movement mechanics ideas, like from the idea that you can capture another creature and use its abilities that Mario doesn't have, that would be unnatural for Mario to have, and they're all unique and different. Whereas in Mario Sunshine, you had a stiffer gameplay. It was more restricted, it was harder, it was more technical, but because of that, it had a more cohesive feel. Does that make sense, Josh?
Yeah, no, it does. I agree.
Yeah. So I think Odyssey feels like kind of like frenetic is the word, and it does feel a little mishmash, but in the best possible way. You're constantly surprised when you get to a new kingdom. Hey, I can do this now. This is different. This is new. This is unique. There's so much to this game, and it's great all around. Every little thing that they do is innovative in a way, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, and that really does tie into the capture mechanic, which turns everything on Mario on its head. And they do a great job of introducing. I think it's just funny to me thinking about like the actual like terror of what a capture mechanic would mean, because Mario is essentially inhabiting, like he's like going into these beings, like, overtaking their mind. Like
I've never thought of it that way. That's a little. What's your favorite capture? First explain. I feel like we missed this a little bit. Peach is being against her will forced to marry Bowser, and Mary is gallivanting across the globe, picking up typical wedding things. Like one of the worlds is like the bubbly kingdom, and he gets champagne, and one of the worlds is like the ice kingdom, and he gets a frosted wedding cake. So you're chasing down Bowser as he's trying to force Peach to marry him, and on the way you meet this Cappy. And he can take it away, Josh.
Yeah, so Cappy is this little floating ghost. And honestly, I don't really care for a lot of the new things, like new creatures and things that are added to this game. And that includes the Cappy race. And there's a whole race of them, of these like floating hat ghost things. And he reveals to Mario that he can essentially take over a creature if he is placed onto the creature. So all Mario has to do is throw Cappy, who takes on the form of Mario's hat and sits on Mario's head. All that Mario has to do is throw Cappy onto a creature, and then he gets transported into that and essentially becomes it, complete with a nose and a mustache. Yeah.
So essentially, Mario teams up with this vicious parasitic race to take out Bowser.
And it's cool. Like it really is. Like and it totally changes, like I said, it totally changes the dynamic of Mario.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, because before, like Mario, a lot of the times it's based off of like the real like crux of any Mario game is his movement.
Yes.
Platforming obviously is the key to all of his games, but he's able to jump, double jump, triple jump like in this game, do backflips, and you're able to do all of that still. But before this game, if you wanted to change how Mario acted, you needed to get a power up. And a lot of the times, all it did was just give him a new ability. You know, the Fire Flower gives him the ability to throw fireballs for a short period of time. Sometimes, you know, like oftentimes even like limited amounts of time. This capture mechanic, the ability to just overtake anything in the game, at least not anything, but just about everything. And it's really surprising how in depth they go with it. It takes the idea of a power up and instead turns everything in the world into not only a power up but a whole new like control, like ability of control, a new set of like things that you can do, and it's really interesting, I think, and definitely funny when you actually think about like the fact that Mario is diving into these creatures' heads and becoming them. But yeah, the capture mechanic is definitely like really what sets this game apart from all the other games, and also what makes it so frenetic, because you're constantly just throwing your cap around, using it to knock out other creatures, and then becoming literally anything. I mean, you can throw it at a Goomba, and Mario becomes the Goomba. And the Goomba, of course, is just this mushroom-like creature with 2 feet, so you can't really do a whole lot with him. But you can also become a Bullet Bill, which are like, and that's the thing, like, it's so ingenious of a mechanic, because what was this old, very traditional Mario element is now this new ability of control and gameplay. So you can become a Bullet Bill and soar through the air. You can throw his hat at, and there's even some interesting things and some truly bizarre ones as well. We'll get to that, but you can throw his hat at a power line, and he becomes a ball of electricity that can shoot through the power line. And it's this very specific mechanic that really just fundamentally changes what Mario is and what he can do, and they use it in a lot of really interesting and fun ways.
It's interesting too, because it's not like think about some other games in which you have to, I don't know, let's say load up, for lack of a better term, like Titanfall. Think about the game where they drop robots from the sky, and I think it's called Titanfall, right? That's a whole process in of itself to get to that robot, climb in the robot, use the robot. Whereas with
you build up to the ability.
Yep, with Mario's capture, it's there from the start, and then 2, each of these creatures has a very simple one-off ability. You're not like dealing with a second Mario. Whereas later in the game you can get Yoshi, which is cool. That's a cool dynamic. You can capture Yoshi, although instead of riding him, which feels a little weird, but right off, this very quick gameplay that each of these creatures is fast, their abilities are fast. You can just, like I said, the whole game feels like a speed run, and each of the characters like doesn't slow down for anything. It's very unique. It keeps the game fresh, interesting, different on every level, and you'll zoom through it and love every second of it. Josh, one of the things that you mentioned about this game that is different from others is, again, the music. And you mentioned 2 major music moments, and I totally agree with you, but I'd love for you to elaborate.
Yeah, really, like when we're talking about, and I think a juxtaposition to Galaxy is a great way to do it. The difference in music in this game, this like we said, this is the idea of frenetic, so the music plays to that. A lot of traditional Mario themes and stuff can be heard in the background for parts of it, which is cool, but instead of being this, like in Galaxy, the music is very like celestial, I would say.
Yes, that's a great word. Yep.
Yeah, it tries to get you to feel just like this sense of wonder. This one is a lot more like, hey, this is great. We're all having a good time. Let's go ahead and do this next thing. And you're really just, it's throwing all kinds of different ideas at you constantly, and the music backs that up perfectly. And I really do want to talk about the kingdoms, and maybe we can just shift this, and because I want to get to these music moments for sure. But I want to talk about this whole game based on the kingdoms, because there's a limited amount, and they're really what make this game different from Galaxy. So Galaxy is a game full of galaxies, and each of them are these little levels that play out in a bunch of unique ways, and they go around the fundamental idea of gravity. Whereas, and this is where this game is more of a spiritual successor to Super Mario 64, Odyssey has kingdoms. And the kingdoms are multi-layered levels that are really just bursting full of things to do and moons to get. And that's the other thing that this game does. Instead of as soon as you get in the previous games, in previous Mario games, you get stars, right?
Yep.
And you're hunting down different stars, and each star is essentially its own level. In this one, moons are the replacement of stars, and instead of being their own level, they're just scattered throughout like these like tons of collectibles all over these levels, and it doesn't kick you back when you collect one, which is something that the other games did. As soon as you got one, it was like this big moment, and you would start back at the beginning of either, like in Mario Galaxy, you'd get put back into the observatory. In Mario 64, you'd go out of the painting and then have to jump back into the painting if you wanted to get another star. This game doesn't do that. It doesn't kick you out, and that's part of the freneticness and the fast pace of it. You get that moon, and then you can just keep going.
Exactly.
Like, Mario does a quick little spin, gets the moon, and then you get to keep exploring. Yep. And there are so many. I think the total in the game is 999.
Which is insane. That's insane.
That is crazy. I think the most that they had before, I think Mario Galaxy 2 had like 300 stars, and that was both with them being doubled. So I think there was only like 150, maybe 200 original stars.
And keep your thought, but I just wanted to add, this is another reason why the game is so accessible, because they've seemed to have lowered the bar, and we're going to talk about dying in a second, but it's very easy to get a power moon, one of the essential modes of transportation and getting around and stuff. It's very easy to get that. They've really lowered the bar, and so that's why I think it's a great entry-level Mario game. That's just another reason. Sorry, Josh, go ahead.
And there's so many, like you said, like it's easily accessible to collect the moons that you need. And initially, when the game starts, when you arrive at a kingdom, and obviously Mario's chasing Bowser as he's going along, and like you said, collecting all of these wedding gift stuff. And when you reach a level, when you reach a kingdom, you are tasked with getting a certain amount of moons. But it's really not that hard to get them. And a lot of the times you'll just stumble upon one as you're exploring, or maybe you'll like see something interesting in the distance, and then as you go over, sure enough, there's a little bit of a challenge there, and you can get them. But I really do want to get into the idea of the kingdoms and run along with that. And we can tackle these one by one. So the game starts out with the Cap Kingdom. And this is where Cappy and his race of parasitic
headgear.
Headgear that are like inhabiting creatures and taking over their minds without any these poor animals.
Yeah, there's no terms of agreement. There's no Apple signature at the sign and agree. There's nothing. They just take what they want.
And the Cap Kingdom is this really cool gray and black aesthetic level, and it introduces you to the idea of Cappy, introduces you to the mechanic of capturing, which starts out with a frog, and the frog is basically just a high jumping little creature. So it kind of takes the idea of Mario, who's already a jumping character, and just kind of makes it a little more simple in introducing the capture mechanic, which I thought was really cool. And then it also introduces you to the Brutals. Jared, what did you think of the Brutals?
I thought they were a little lame, but I mean,
I agree.
It's not, it's not as terrifying as some of the bosses that you fight in, like Mario Sunshine even, or Galaxy, whereas you're dealing with maybe like a rabid piranha plant or a giant squid, the Brutals were kind of this simple, I don't know. It's like the Junior Bowser fights that you've had in previous Mario games. So it's
Right.
pretty just jump on the head kind of simple stuff. I just thought they were a little lame, but didn't
agree.
ruin the game for me. But
No, but like I mean, when you think about like Galaxy or like even Sunshine, like they had these very, I don't know, standout characters.
Yes,
I can't imagine
exactly.
the Brutals being used again in another game.
Forgettable is
And I
the
think-
word. Yes.
Forgettable for sure, and that was something I like playing through it again really noticed. Is I was just like, man, these guys are like lame.
Yeah.
They're just kind of lame, especially compared to like how vibrant and exciting the world is, and Mario's capture mechanic and his ability to really just inhabit all sorts of things really like is just fun and interesting and crazy. They are not. So you get introduced to these guys who are basically like contract killers for Bowser who are trying to stop. Who are trying to stop.
They're
Mario.
henchmen, hitmen, bunnies.
Yeah, they're like hitman bunnies, and they you have to fight them, and they all have hats, and so you got to like knock off their hat to be able to jump on their head. And interesting that like when they don't have hats, you can't inhabit them. Not sure why, but I guess that's where the limitation of they can't capture bunnies. These little caps. And that's the other thing that this game does. Anything that has a hat, you can't capture. So you have to be aware of that. But if it doesn't have a hat, more than likely, you can capture it. And the Cap Kingdom does a really good job of just kind of introducing you to those elements. And then you take off at the very end of it to the Cascade Kingdom. And the Cascade Kingdom, one of my favorite kingdoms in the whole game, is this, like, it's called Fossil Falls. It's based on, like, I guess, like, ancient, not the word, what is the word I'm thinking for?
Dinosaurs, kind of like prehistoric. Yeah.
Prehistoric,
Yeah.
that's the word I'd like to use. Yeah, prehistoric, like, aesthetic, and it's really
Yeah.
cool and really gorgeous, and also opens up your ability to capture. One of the first things you come across is a Chomp Chomp, and Chomp Chomps initially in a Mario game are terrifying. They're like these big, like, metal chomping balls.
They're hard
that
to
are
avoid.
attached to a chain.
Yep.
Yeah, they're hard to avoid, and they can usually just knock you out, and they're usually really fast moving. And instead of being terrifying of it, and this is what sets the game apart from all kinds of other Mario games, it's not a challenge. Instead, it's a new experience because you can just throw your cap at it,
Exactly. Yep.
overtake it, and then next thing you know, you're a chain chomp, and did I call it a chomp chomp? You're a chain chomp, and you can use the chain chomp to kind of just like bounce around, knock stuff out, and then right after that specific capture, you're introduced to another crazier capture, which is a dinosaur itself.
It's funny as Nintendo's affinity for dinosaurs. Like, even in Luigi's Mansion 3, they incorporated dinosaurs however they could.
That's true. and this Cascade Falls is one of the few places where you can find a dinosaur. But Mario creeps up on a dinosaur, and sure enough, it's like one of those. And this is the game, like the beauty of the game. Like, I have this thought. I approach the dinosaur, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, no way.
Can I actually like do something? Because you're starting to get trained at this point. Like, okay, throw your hat at something, and you connect with it, and who knows, like, what's going to happen after that? And that was what the feeling I got with this dinosaur. It was like, okay, really? Like, is this thing going to chase me? Like, is this about to be a boss fight? Like, what's going to happen? But nope. All you have to do is throw your cap at it, and then all of a sudden you become the dinosaur and can just rampage through the entire level. And I think and that's really why this game is cool, and where this game, I think, is a step above even Mario Galaxy. It just has that constant sense of wonder of like, maybe not the word wonder, because Mario games are often filled with wonder, but it's just this sense of like, you can do just about anything you actually think you can. And it's that accessibility and ability to really do whatever you want that makes this game incredibly fun. And we don't. Now that I'm thinking about it, there are a lot of kingdoms, and we don't have to jump through all of them.
What was your favorite one, Josh? I was actually just thinking that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to talk about capture mechanics and your favorite capture mechanic as well. But I would say there are some truly standout kingdoms. The Metro Kingdom is one of them, New Donk City, and that one really is famous for multiple reasons. But my personal favorite has got to go to, and I'm kind of looking through these again just to double check. It's got to be Bowser's Kingdom. The Bowser Kingdom and it's one of the last ones you get to. And Bowser's Kingdom is really unique because it puts you into, instead of, like in a lot of Mario games, instead of it being like this lava level where you're going through a castle, instead it's this like Asian aesthetic.
Yeah, every Bowser level has looked the same up until this point.
Yeah, and it's this really surprising, like, oh, this is interesting. It's got like this samurai feel.
Yeah.
And there's like big statues of Bowser like wielding like different things and stuff like that that really just set it apart, and they're also interesting in this game itself, the way that the different courtyards are displayed, because they're all separate. Unlike the Mario 64 inspired levels where they're all kind of just exploring based and you can kind of like run in any direction. Yep. Bowser's Kingdom was like different sects of like challenges, and they're all like floating islands.
Yep. But a very linear feel.
Yeah, very linear feel, and like floating islands and these like really gorgeous like multicolored clouds, and it really just I think the aesthetic of it was like really what drew me in.
Yep. And
but then
it surprised me a little bit because I popped into Bowser's World and saw this as like, oh, you know, sometimes I forget this game is made in Japan, and I kind of feel like this was a cool homage to I don't know, the old Japanese culture, and like, don't forget who makes this game. I just thought it was cool.
And the fact that this was in a Mario game too was just like really awesome. And I felt like they just did a really great job with that kingdom specifically. And then they take, in this specific kingdom, the idea of a capture and play with it a lot in the little birds that you can capture, which are like these little fat, basically like woodpeckers with like a big bill. And you can stick the bill into a wall and then fling yourself
which is just a super innovative idea anyway. I mean, you already kind of played with that whole, like, they have street cones in Metro City where you can throw your cap on the cone and fling yourself in a certain direction, like a you know. But then they do this with a capture mechanic, and it's just ingenious. Like, who thought of this? Who thought of a little woodpecker that sticks its nose into a wall, bends its own beak, and flings you in a direction? Like, who thinks of these things?
And that's the awesome thing, like, just in general about this game, is that it's constantly being innovative and throwing new mechanics at you, and they're instantly easily able to be grasped, and you're constantly being rewarded through the like prevalence of the moons, and it's great. The whole game in general, but Bowser's Kingdom specifically was my favorite.
My favorite
what about you?
was Moon Kingdom, aside from Metroid, because like the Metro Kingdom, New Donk City is like it's like they somehow fit a bustling metropolis that's actually pretty small when you look at the map, and it makes it feel huge. Like you're Mario running around like Spider-Man in New York City. It's actually really cool. And so aside from that one, though, just on pure like mechanics and aesthetic alone, I really like the Moon Kingdom, because you get to the moon. That's an
interesting pick, actually.
And you can jump really high. I just thought it was really cool. And there's kind of wedding bells because it's the final level on the, there's wedding bells in the background. I just thought that one was really cool.
Yeah, I like the aesthetic for it for sure. And there's like an entire underground like moon hellscape.
Yep.
Where you're like running through like this lava base, and then even in that you're introduced to more capture mechanics that are incredibly interesting, including the ability to take over flying dry bones and then just like fly.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. But I guess in order to wrap up this idea of the kingdoms, and really this is where the beauty of the game lies, is in the variety that are introduced to you through the kingdoms. But I do want to talk about those music moments.
Yeah.
Metro Kingdom specifically, which is probably the standout kingdom in the entire game.
Totally
like
agree.
You said, kind of like Spider-Man running around. And you can really just spend I mean, you could probably spend 2 hours and still find new things.
That's kind of why the game took me so long, is because I spent so much time in the Metro Kingdom. It felt endless.
Yeah, and you're constantly turning a corner, seeing something new and interesting, and sure enough, you're rewarded either with a moon or with some interesting new capture mechanic. And it's a full-fledged city, and it really does kind of put the other kingdoms to shame.
I agree.
With how multi-layered it is. But when you first go to the kingdom too, it kind of stands out because it's raining, and it's dark, and you can't see everything, and then you have to pretty much traditionally go through like a linear level to get to the end and fight the boss. And then after that, it really just opens up. And the music there really accentuates just how exciting and fun and upbeat the game is. And you're kind of lost my train of thought, but when it transitions into the brighter Metro New Donk City, you're able to just take it on and run from place to place. And it's just really, it's a great, I'd say, like, pure example of what makes this game.
Yes. The best
amazing.
example. Yeah.
For sure, the best example.
There's a couple kingdoms that do that, I believe. Like Snow Kingdom starts in a blizzard. You literally can't see anything. You can't see your hand in front of your face when you hop off the ship and you have to go find. And then it opens up into this snowy paradise. Metro Kingdom goes through 2 transformations. You get there and it's like raining and lightning, and you're trying to go through the city and whatever else, and then you. And then it opens up and becomes daytime, and everyone's happy and going to work and whatever else. And then you accomplish the next big task, and it turns into a party scene, and everyone's partying. The entire aesthetic of the city changes, and it's incredible that they took an entire kingdom and put it through 2 massive aesthetic changes just in one level, and it really accentuates the creativity of this game, it hands down is the shining star of this game.
And that's the party scene that we wanted to talk about,
right.
The music moment. Jump Up Superstar is the name of the song. And it's just like this celebration, I would say, of not only this game, but of Mario. Like you're playing like these 2D portions, and the music in the background is, Jump Up Superstar, just like getting you incredibly excited, and there's fireworks going off, and it's just like this perfect culmination of joy and this sense of excitement that this game has. And for all its like lack of epicness maybe that like a Galaxy would have, it's the moments like that really just pull this game and make it well worth the experience. Like when you finished the game, you texted me and you were like, what a dope Mario game.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's just like, that perfectly explains it. It's just a dope Mario game. And I really wanted to dive into all the different kingdoms because each of them have moments like that. Mm-hmm. There's like a whole entire dragon fight that happens in one kingdom. And the Luncheon Kingdom has my favorite capture of probably the entire game, where you throw your hat at a piece of meat and you become this giant slab of meat. Just like, and then you wiggle like this disgusting wiggle. I like that part was like, fantastic. What in the world is this game? It's just like constantly innovating and constantly throwing new ideas at you. But then it really just hits you with nostalgic moments and moments of like, this is an awesome game, and that includes that music moment.
Yeah. Josh, can I play some of that song? I have it right here. Let me see if let me get it here.
Here we go, off the rails. Don't you know it's time to raise our sails? It's freedom like you never knew. Don't need bags or a pass. Say the word, I'll be there in a flash. You could say my hat is off to you. Oh, we can zoom all the way to the moon from this great wide wacky world. Jump with me, grab coins with me, oh yeah. Time to jump up in the air. Jump up, don't be scared.
The other song too is at the very end of the game, and that was another surprising moment where I was like, no way. Basically what happens is, and I'm spoiling it, but when you get to the final boss with Bowser, you face him, you fight him, you defeat him, and then you guys are both stuck on the moon as it's crumbling. And Peach is like, what are we going to do? Bowser's knocked out. And sure enough, you look over at Bowser, and my first thought was like, okay, I got to try this. And I threw my cap at Bowser, and you become and inhabit Bowser against his will. And then you start just running through as Bowser, and you're taking out all this different like obstacles and stuff, and the music just picks up. And actually, it might not happen until a little bit later.
Yeah, there's two parts. Yeah, the song
like
picks up in the second half. Yeah,
but it's just stuffed full of moments like that, and it's really awesome. Do you have it pulled up?
I do have it. Yeah, but it's gonna be on my phone, so you're gonna have to not talk for a second. or do you want to just insert it later?
I mean, honestly, I could finish out the podcast with the song. That would be cool, actually.
Yeah, why don't you do that? That'd be cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
That'd be better audio quality, I think.
I want to point out one last kingdom, and that's the Mushroom Kingdom that happens at the very end.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So this is a direct homage to Mario 64, and this, more than anything, is just stuffed full of nostalgia. This is where you find Yoshi, and you can capture Yoshi and like run around and jump on him. But it's like this recreation of the very beginning of Super Mario 64. And even in the and we didn't even talk about the costumes.
I know.
But see, this is the thing. This game is so stuffed full of all kinds of interesting stuff.
Quickly, I'll just explain the costumes real quick. You get to the first level, and you can go into a store and buy a costume. It's right there at the front, and it costs like 15 coins total to buy a hat and an outfit. So it's very accessible. At each kingdom, you use the currency of that kingdom and your normal coins to buy whatever outfit you want. And they're wacky, they're zany. You can go as a clown, as a surfer. You can go in just your underwear. Like it's fantastic, and it made me look forward to the store every time I got to a new level to see what outfit they had. So it was really cool, dynamic, and it's actually a crucial part of unlocking certain moons. You have to be wearing a certain outfit to go into certain doors. So it was actually another level of the game that they just did really well.
And there's these little 2D sections that are like strewn about throughout the game, and whenever you jump into them, Mario actually retains his costume. Mm-hmm. So they went out of their way, add that extra level of detail, and create a sprite with Mario wearing that costume. So if he's wearing like his Mexican costume, he's got a little sombrero on.
Yep.
And then, like I was saying, with the Mushroom Kingdom at the very end, there's actually a costume that makes you into the chunky, disgusting 64 polygon Mario. Yep. You can get like remember that face that you can just like tug on in Mario 64 at the very beginning. It's that, and it's just like this cool little like extra detail, and then you can just play the whole game as that if you wanted. And that experience, like when you first just land on the Mushroom Kingdom, I would say is just well worth the entire trip that it takes to get there.
Absolutely.
So I guess with that in mind, we can go ahead and wrap it up. Okay, there's a question here. You said, did Peach have a feminist moment?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
So I'm gonna have to. So at the finale, Mario and Bowser are fighting over. They finished beating each other up, right? And so they're back at the ship. They're about to leave the planet, and Bowser is so persistent that he still tries to give Peach flowers. And then Mario sees this. Bowser trying to woo his woman, and he grabs some flowers, and they're both trying to shove their flowers in Peach's face, and she rejects both of them. She like does this little like men, and then like rejects both of them, and it actually prompted several articles. I'll give you one example. It prompted the website feministfrequency.com to write an article entitled "Peach's Tiny Taste of Freedom: Gender in Super Mario Odyssey."
Great.
And and it's just funny to me how it's like I would say that this is the most self-aware Mario game they've ever created. Like, it was so in time. It was all the unique dynamics. It was a harken back to the 64. It had a lot of the same freedoms that Super Mario Sunshine did, but a lot of the best of the mechanics that Super Mario Galaxy did. And so it really was the most self-aware Mario game that they've created thus far. My personal favorite, well, that's hard to say because I'm nostalgic, but one of my personal favorites for sure, and it just, yeah, even with a Peach feminist moment.
I like that moment too, because like as soon as Peach basically rejects both Mario and Bowser, the camera like pans back and Bowser and Mario are both like sad and depressed, and Mario's like consoling Bowser for the moment.
They're like crying.
Which is hilarious because he had just inhabited his brain like not more than 10 minutes before. But.
Yeah.
So I guess all that to say, I don't even think we need a debate.
No, we don't.
I think this game
Absolutely
should be entered into the Hall of Games for sure. It's a fun fest. Like, it's just frenetic. It's fast paced. It's full of tons of just amazing moments. And it may not have that sense of emotional gut punch, like you said, that a Galaxy would. And personally, like, I can't help but cling to my moments with Galaxy more than this game. But it's chock full of innovation. It's chock full of crazy ideas and like, wow, they actually went there moments.
Yep.
And so it's well worth being entered into our Hall of Games. And I just want to close this out asking one simple question. Is Mario, is he like a dwarf creature? Like, because this was another thing that and this is where you kind of like saying self-aware, but in the Metro Kingdom, there are like actual like humans like walking around, and they don't look like Mario. He's like this weird, squat, strange, bizarre, and I was kind of like, oh, like, okay. So he's not a human.
Do you think this is Japan's way of saying we resent the fact that Asians are typically shorter than everyone else?
Maybe. Very possibly.
Yeah.
Also, Mario doesn't age, which is something I found out.
Yeah.
His canon age is 26. So he looks terrible, first of all, for 26. But also maybe his trips to space have kept him from aging.
Sure.
He can just be this timeless
Jumping
warlord
around
now
on the
inhabiting
moon.
yeah, and like inhabiting the minds
Oh,
of other creatures
gosh.
now.
Yeah.
So
That's funny.
Anyway, I guess we can end this with our ka-chunk. Super Mario Odyssey is in the Hall of Games.
Absolutely.
And with that in mind, I mean, we could talk about this all day. Honestly, we really could. There's just so much to this game, but we'll close it out there. Highly recommend.
Yes, absolutely.
Highly recommend to everyone. Pick this up. It's still $60. I know it's an older game, and it's still like it doesn't Nintendo doesn't typically put price cuts on their games, but occasionally you'll see it on the eShop at a lower price. But even at $60, I think it's well worth
Absolutely.
purchase.
Yeah, 9.9 out of 10. Great game.
Definitely. So I guess that's it from us this week. Thanks for listening, and we will see you guys all next time.
Smash through the blocks that bar your way. No time for fear, just let it all fall away. Nobody believes in me and you. Just look at the way they stare. So what if we live in a walled garden? As long as I've got you, then I don't care. Kick up a wall and take the plunge, tripping through 2 dimensions. Up on the moon, we'll twirl and swoon. Just lead the way. I'll throw my hat in the ring, 'cause you're the one. I'm miracle in 3 dimensions. Follow the brick path straight to my heart, and we'll grab the flag together. The fireworks are gonna start. Shake off the chains, you're running free. racing for the goal, and no one can stop us now.